Storytime. You guys already saw the vlog part, and you guys just saw like a few parts of what went on the day that I gave birth to baby Ellie. She's chilling in the back. So is Isaac. He's watching a movie. He has his pizza over there. And I'm washing my sheets right now, so don't mind how the bed looks. But anyways, let's go ahead and just jump right in. So, you guys saw like bits and pieces of what went on that day. But let me just give you like the tea. I'm also going to be eating some blazing wings from Buffalo Wild Wings. What's on?
You guys go at doctor appointments with no kids and me a day with the boys at the bakery.
Mm-hmm.
And the boys are getting me dressed.
Yeah, but not today. Okay, let's start from the beginning. It all started the 20th, which was Wednesday. And that's the day that I had my follow-up appointment. I was 40 weeks and 5 days. And that appointment was basically they were just gonna, it was just a checkup. They checked me, they checked baby, make sure she was still head down. And you guys saw a little bit, like they just checked her heartbeat. Well, the boys got to check her heartbeat. And they did another membrane sweep that day. And that day they made the membrane sweep was more intense than the past two appointments where they did it. This time the doctor was able to get all around. She like swept everything and like disconnected all the membranes. And she said she was able to feel her head. Now that day we had gone to Pike Place before the appointment just so I can get some more walking in and kind of get my labor started. Because the two appointments before that I had gotten the membrane sweep and I would only get minor contractions that day for like an hour after I got the membrane sweep, and then after that nothing. And the days following up to my appointment on the 20th, I hadn't felt any contractions, nothing at all. It's like they had completely stopped. ¿Qué pasó, mamas? I know. So I had been doing a lot more walking. So that day we went to Pike Place. We walked up a little hill. But again, I didn't get like any contractions going. We went to appointment. She did the membrane sweep. And I was 3 centimeters dilated at the appointment. So she's like, you know what, I'm going to do the membrane sweep. We'll see how that goes. If nothing happens, you know, we have a new induction date for you, which was going to be, originally it was Tuesday the 26th, but they were able to move it up to Sunday the 24th. She's like, if nothing happens today with the membrane sweep and, you know, you don't go into labor today, then we have Sunday available for an induction. So I was like, okay, cool, whatever. So my appointment that day was at 4:30. And the clinic is about 30 minutes away from where we live without traffic. So if there's traffic, then it takes us like 45 minutes to get back home from the clinic. So she did the membrane sweep, and after the membrane sweep, I wasn't feeling any contractions or anything. I was just feeling very uncomfortable. It wasn't painful, it was just uncomfortable, and it was just like discomfort in my stomach. So we were leaving the clinic, and then on the way home, we did catch some traffic, so it took us a little bit to get home. On the way home, I started to feel minor contractions. But like I said, usually after a membrane sweep, sometimes I would feel the contractions for like an hour after the appointment, and then they would completely go away. So Jonathan's like, do you want to go to the doctor? And I was like, no. It's like, I think it's just because of the sweep. I'm just going to ride them out, see how they get. So around, I kind of just let them go. They would come and they would go, they would come and they would go. But I didn't really start tracking them until around 7 o'clock at night. I have a contraction tracker app on my phone, and I'll insert a clip of like how the contractions were looking um, in here somewhere. But around 7 o'clock, I started tracking them, and they were coming every 2 to 3 minutes. They were lasting anywhere from like 30 to 40 seconds, and then they would go away, but they were being consistent. So I tracked my contractions from like 7 to like 9, and at 9, I called. I was like, okay, it's kind of, it's feeling different than the other times I did the membrane sweep. So let me call. It was like 9 p.m. So I called, and they sent me to one of the on-call nurses in labor and delivery. And I told her, I was like, you know what? I've been having some constant contractions for like the past 2 hours. And, they pull up your chart so they can see, they can see that I had an appointment earlier and that I had the membrane sweep. So the nurse, she's like, okay. She's like, well, she starts asking me if my water broke or if I've had any discharge, anything like, if anything else has happened other than the contractions. So I was like, no, my membrane, um, my membrane, my mucus plug, I did lose it on Sunday. I was like, but other than that, my water hasn't broke or anything. I was like, it's just the contractions have been consistent. And she's like, well, um, you could be in labor. She's like, it's really up to you if you want to come in and be checked or if you want to wait a little bit longer to see if your water breaks. And then she asked me, where we were at. And I told her that we were about 30 minutes out. And she's like, okay, you know what? Then go ahead and start heading in. So I waited for my mom. My mom got here so that my brothers can stay with the boys, and so my stepdad, so that someone can stay with the boys, because the boys, I mean, you could bring them, but I didn't want to bring them, especially if we stayed, because they can't stay overnight anyways. And it was already 9, so they were getting ready for bed anyways. So that's where you guys saw the clip where after I called in, where we told you guys that we were getting ready to head in. So while we waited for my mom, we started putting the car seat together and all of that. So that happened. We waited for my mom. My mom got here, and we headed out to the hospital. We got to the hospital around 10:30, somewhere around there. And they took me into one of the little rooms that they have for not for you to be checked before you actually get like an actual room and you're admitted. So they took me into that little room. They connected me onto the monitor so that they can monitor her and they can monitor the contractions, just to make sure that I am having contractions and that she's taking the contractions okay and they're not putting her in stress or anything. So they put me on the monitor for about 30 minutes, and then the doctor came in to check me. The doctor and because the hospital is a learning hospital, a teaching hospital, so the doctor with one of the students came in, and they both checked me, and they're like, okay, well, you're still about almost 4 centimeters, so you haven't really dilated a lot or pretty much anything since I was checked earlier at 4:30 at my appointment. So they're like, but you are about 75% of phase, so you are making some progress, but not a lot. They're like, but you can stay, because either way you have and your induction is tomorrow, which was the 21st. So I guess they had gotten another slot open sooner than Sunday for the 21st for me to be induced. So either way, I was gonna stay. Whether I was in active labor or not, I was gonna stay, because I was gonna be induced the next day anyways. So they're like, you can go ahead, go walk around for 2 hours, or you can, just bounce on the exercise balls in the room for 2 hours, and then we'll check you within 2 hours and see where we've progressed. So I was like, you know what, I'll go, let me go and let me walk for those 2 hours so that we can like get stuff going. And by that, I had in mind doing what we did with Isaac when I went into labor with Isaac, and just going up and down the flights of stairs to kind of like get stuff going. My contractions weren't that bad yet. They were, they were still consistent, but pain-wise, they weren't that bad. They were like at a 4 or 5. They weren't too bad yet. So they got us a room. We left our stuff in the room, and that's where you guys saw me bouncing on the ball talking to the nurse. We were leaving our stuff, and then she was telling me, you know what, after the 2 hours, which at that time it was going to be around 1 a.m. I believe it was 1 a.m. where I was going to come back into the room, and they were going to check me and see if I progressed any within the 2 hours and kind of get like a game plan going from there. So we went and we walked up and down the flights of stairs. I was doing lunges up the stairs, and then you guys saw a clip where I was going backwards, doing lunges backwards down the stairs as well. We went up like 11 flights of stairs, I think. And it was Jonathan, my mom, my brother, my brother, the oldest one, and myself. And we were going. They got some coffee, and we were going up and down the stairs. We went all the way up. I think it was like 11 flights, and then we went all the way down, and then we walked back to the room, and they came in, they checked me, and I was still barely like 4 centimeters dilated, so I still hadn't dilated pretty much anything more. So they put me back on the monitor. They were checking the baby, and I bounced on the ball for a little bit, and then they were gonna come back to check me. I don't remember if it was like an hour later. I think it was like an hour later, like at 2, maybe 3 in the morning, when they were going to come back and check me and see if I have progressed anymore. And if not, then we were going to talk about, you know, induction and what steps we were going to take from there. So they came back and they checked me, and I was barely at like 5, I think, if that. So they're like, okay, so let's go ahead and start like the induction process. And they're like, we can do the Pitocin, or we can break your water and see what happens after we break your water. And if you start to progress and actually like, stuff gets going after we break your water, then good. If not, then we'll have to start you on Pitocin. So they're okay, yeah. So the girl, when the doctor checked, she was the one that checked me, and then I thought that, because the student came with her as well, and as soon as the doctor finished checking me, then the student goes and she's like checking me as well. But I guess what she was doing was she was breaking my water, and I didn't know she was breaking my water yet. So I was like right there, just laying there holding my mom's hand, and like I said, I thought that she was just checking me, but she was like going in there, and I was like, oh my lord. But she was actually breaking my water with, like, I guess she did have the hook. All I saw was her hand, but my mom said that she did have the hook. But she, like, it felt like she went elbow deep in there, and I was like, girl. But then I felt, the gush of water, and I was like, oh, okay, she's breaking my water. So she broke my water, and we were gonna basically wait it out for, I think it was like, I think they said maybe another hour, and then they were gonna come back and check me. So they broke my water. I was laying down, and I don't remember. Was it? I think it was before they broke my water that they got the IV in. But when they got the IV, they were trying to get the IV in. Girl, was that a process. So there was 2 nurses. One which was awesome. The one, she was like amazing, and she was able to stay through. She was the one that admitted me, and she got me from like, she was with me from like the beginning to the end. But it was her, and then it was another nurse that came in, and the other nurse that came in was initially going to do my IV. So when she starts looking at my hands, and she's like, okay, she's like, I'm gonna go ahead and get your IV in. She's looking at my veins, and she's like, okay, so we do have a numbing like cream that we can put on your hand before we put the IV in, if you want to, so that you really don't feel when we're putting the IV in. And I was like, I mean, it's just like a pinch at first, and then you get it in and it's done, right? I mean, I hate getting the IV in, but it's just like, it's quick. So I was like, you know what? I was like, no, I don't need it. It's fine. Just go ahead and put that bad boy in. So first she goes in with this arm, and she tries to get the IV in right here, and she couldn't. She was like, she lost the vein after she put the freaking pick in, and then she started fishing in there, and look at the bruise that she gave me. And this is a week later, where the bruise is already going down. Like, it was bad. look at this, all bruised from her trying to get the IV in right here. And she couldn't get it. She couldn't get it. She lost the vein. So then she, like, started putting some, I think it was saline. And it, like, it blew up my hand. And she was like trying to find the vein again, and it didn't work. So she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you know. But it's not working, so I'm gonna have to do it again." So she takes it out. She starts looking at my other hand. And she's like, "Okay, I think I found a good one." So she goes in on this side. And look at the bruise on this side, you guys. It goes from here all the way over here. All of this. And like I said, this is a week later with it already like going down because it was worse. Again, she loses this vein, starts fishing around, blows this one up too. And she's like, "Oh man, you know, I couldn't get it either on this hand either." And then the other nurse, Jenny, she was like, you know, she's like, "Can I try?" And she's been a nurse there for 10 years. She's like, "Can I try?" And I was like, "Go for it, girl." She's like, she was like, "Can I try, or do you want us to just call the anesthesiologist team for them to come and do it?" She's like,
Where was they at?
"Check downstairs. Maybe he's downstairs with Caesar." She's like, she's like, "Can I try first?" She's like, "I really don't like calling the anesthesiologist team." She's like, "Because what they do is they just go right here." She's like, "And then you're not really able to like do much, move your hand, whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, go for it. You know, you try." I was like, "But you know what?" I was like, "Can you actually give me the numbing cream this time?" Because, and she's like, "Okay, yeah, we'll give you the numbing cream." So Jenny goes in on this side. First try, and she got it, but she did the numbing cream first, and they started laughing because like she got it in when she poked me, because the numbing thing is still another shot, so it's really like pointless because you're still feeling a shot, regardless whether you're getting the numbing and then the IV or just the IV. But she put it in there, and when she poked me, I was like, "Oh, Jenny, you got me," and they started laughing, but. She was able to get it in first try on this one, no bruising or anything. The other girl, I don't know what the hell she was doing, but yeah. So that's what happened with my IV. And like I said, so they broke my water, and then they were gonna wait. I think it was like an hour and a half. Salut! But they were gonna come back and check me after my water broke at like, I think it was like 4 in the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning, something like that. But Jenny's like, "Okay, you know what, we got your IV in, your water's broke, so just go ahead, try and get some rest." She's like, "And we'll come back and check on you." So before that, so that happened, and then once they broke my water, the contractions started. They were coming, they were fierce, they were painful. I went through a few, and I was trying to push through, and then I was like, "Oh, girl, I need my epidural." So Jenny's like, "Okay," she's like, "We can get you your epidural if you want to." She's like, "That's not a problem." She's like, do you mind if I check you first to see if you're progressing, see if you even need the epidural?" She's like, "Maybe you're like already there and you don't even need the epidural." And I was like, when she was telling me that, I was like going through a contraction, and I was like, I was in so much pain, and I was like, "Girl," I was like, "You know what? No, just give me the epidural. I need the epidural." I was like, "I can't. Like, this pain is, I'm not gonna be able to do it." She's like, "Okay," so she orders the epidural. And while the epidural is getting there, the contractions, like, they, like, double again some more. And I was like, "Ooh, girl." Because, you know, you have to sit still when you get the epidural, or else you're going to be, like, you're going to get, like, handicapped or something, you know? So that's always, like, my biggest fear when I get the epidural. And my contractions felt so strong. And I was trying to, like, sit there, super clench up my shoulders, and I would like kind of stiffen up, but then I was like, "Okay, no, you need to relax." And she'd be like, "No, honey, relax your shoulders, it's okay." And at this point, my contractions were getting so strong, it was at the point where my body was shaking. And you know, when you're in labor and you start getting closer to delivery, your body starts shaking like uncontrollably. Well, I was like, I was right there bending over, not bending over, but like looking down, waiting for my epidural. The anesthesiologist is like back here, and he's like cleaning my back and getting anything ready. And I was shaking, and I was trying so hard to stop my body from shaking because I didn't want him to like poke something wrong and like me not be able to walk later or something. ¿Qué pasó?
Mom.
So I was trying so hard not to shake. My mom was holding me on one side, the nurse was holding me on the other side, and they were like, just relax, it's okay, you're okay. And they're like, hey, your hands are dirty. Here, clean your hands. Go sit down and eat your pizza. Jonathan was in the bathroom, and they're like, it's okay, you're okay. Yeah, eat your pizza. They're like, your body's shaking. They're like, she's coming, like she's close, it's okay. And I was just like, I was just breathing. I was inhaling and exhaling and just trying to relax. And they were just like my contractions at this point, they were like at a 9. And then the anesthesiologist starts poking me, and I was like, ow, ow, and they're like, okay, they're like, do you feel pressure or is it pain? I was like, it's pain. And they're like, oh, okay, then let me apply some more numbing. And I was like, excuse me. Now at this point, there was 2 anesthesiologists, so, and now, no, don't do that, baby. Close the door. So there was 2 anesthesiologists. One was watching the other. So now, so the one that was actually doing it was, baby, close the door. So the one that was doing it was actually another student working on it.
And my mom and dad and mama's go far away at doctor appointment, and it's not for kids and only for mom and dad. And mom and dad on him way at house.
Okay, close the door. Close the door. So at this point, I'm in pain. I'm praying to God that this student doesn't like mess up my back. So I was just praying to God at this point that he doesn't mess up my back. He had to poke me twice because the first time he didn't get it right. I don't know what happened. And then he had to give me the numbing thing again because it didn't work, or I don't know what happened. But anyways, at this point, Jonathan came out of the bathroom and he was like watching what the anesthesiologist was doing, and so was my mom, and they were like, they were kind of scared too. I know, mamas.
Mom.
He finally gets it done, and they're like, okay, you can lift your head slowly, and then so then I wait for the epidural to start kicking in. One of my legs starts to go numb. The other one is not numb. It's still alive. One leg is numb. The other leg is like still alive and kicking. Now, I was under the impression that the epidural was going to like knock out my whole feeling and everything from my waist down, because when I gave birth to Isaac, that's what happened. Like both of my legs were dead. They were so dead that like one of them at one point was like hanging off the bed, and I didn't even know. My mom saw. She's like, oh my gosh, your leg. And then they helped me put it back up on the bed. But this time around, I don't know if it was like a different type of epidural. I don't know, because like a little while went by, the nurse came back to check on me after the epidural, and she's like, how are you feeling? I was like, good. I was like, I still felt the contractions, but they had gone back down to like a 3. I was like, I still feel the contractions. I was like, and my legs are still, I was like, my legs aren't numb. I was like I can still feel my legs. And she's like, yeah. She's like, you're supposed to feel your legs. She's like, you're still gonna feel everything. She's like, it's just that it like helps you cope with the pain. And I was like, oh, okay. I was cool with that. Like, I could still feel my legs. That's fine. So, like I said, that's when she came back in a little bit after the epidural to check on me. And she checked me, and I want to say, at a 6 when she checked me. And then she told me to go ahead and rest. And then she would come back in a couple hours to check on me and see how I was progressing. So she came back at 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. to check on me. Now this is now the morning of Thursday the 21st. And it was 5 a.m. She came. Everyone had fallen asleep. My mom, Jonathan, and my brother. But every time that they would come in to check on me, my mom would kind of wake up. And she would just look, and then she would go back to sleep. So it was, like I said, 5 a.m. Jenny came back in to check on me, and this was the same nurse that took me in from when we walked in. She checked on me, and she's like, okay. She's like, well, you're still a 6. She's like, but let me go ahead and empty your bladder, because sometimes I guess that stops the baby from like coming down all the way, or it like, I don't know. But and she's like, I'll empty your bladder, and she's like, it might help. She empties my bladder. She's like, I'll be back in 30 minutes. She came back in 30 minutes. So it was 5:30. She checked me, and she like, I was still kind of feeling the contractions, but it was more like discomfort, and I would just like push the button for the epidural to like give me a little more like juice. And I was kind of like in between sleep, and she came back at 5:30. She checked me, and she was like, she came back with the student that broke my water. And they both came in, and she's like, I guess they had like a bet going on, or they were like, I bet you she's ready. Now Jenny was wanting me to give birth before she had to clock out, and she was clocking out at 7 a.m. and she was like, they were like so excited. She wanted to be there when the baby was born, especially because I hadn't told anybody that, what her name was going to be. So like the whole nurse team was trying to guess her name, because they asked me for Isaac and Isaiah's name, and I told them. So they were all like trying to guess her name, because everyone was thinking that we were going to keep the whole IZ theme of how we have Isaac and Isaiah. So they all had like their guesses on her name, and she just wanted to be there when she was born. She wanted her to be born before she had to clock out. So she comes in with the student that broke my water. And Jenny checks me first, and she's like, she didn't say anything. My mom was awake, and I woke her up, and I told her to come hold my hand when the student was gonna check me, because I told you guys, like, I don't know if it was because she was rough or what, but like every time that she checked me, it was like so uncomfortable. So I told my mom to come hold my hand when the student's gonna check me. The student checks me, and they both look at each other, Jenny and the student, and they're like, you're ready, it's time to push. And I turned, and I was like, you sure? Because I didn't think that it had been 30 minutes before, and I was barely at 6. And then they came and they checked me, and it was time to push. Like, I was at 10, ready to go. And I was feeling a little bit of pressure, but I was like, nah, like, I don't think so. And then they said, you're ready to push. And I was like, well, okay then. So they call my doctor, the one that I usually see at the clinic, but she was busy with someone else. And they're like, okay, well, like, can we get her pushing? And she was like, yeah, go ahead and have her start pushing. So at 5:35, we woke up Jonathan and my brother. My brother stood up here by my shoulders, and Jonathan was over here. Before I started pushing, Jonathan was like I said, when we were walking for the 2 hours before they actually like admitted me into the room, they drank coffee and they hadn't ate anything. So Jonathan and my brother's stomachs were messed up. And when I was getting ready to push, Jonathan's like, I need to go bathroom. He needed to go to the bathroom. I know, mamas. So my mom's like, well, hurry up and go to the bathroom before she starts pushing. And he goes, and then he like runs into the bathroom, and then it was time for me to push. So I gave like one push, and then my mom's like, she's pushing. So Jonathan like rushes out of the bathroom, and he comes and he holds me, and I started pushing at 5:35, and by 5:40 baby girl was out. 3 pushes later, she was out, and it was the quickest labor that I had, the quickest delivery that I had thus far. Between all 3 of them, she was the quickest and she was the fastest. to come out. 3 pushes, 5 minutes later she was out. 5:40 a.m. baby girl was born, and she was healthy, and they gave her to me, and I held her for a good minute before they took her and they started doing, everything that they had to do to her. And I was able to do I was able to have her on my chest for a good while. She fed and everything, and then they came back like half an hour later to check on her. Meanwhile, they finished doing what they were doing to me. They had me deliver the placenta and all of that. ¿Qué pasó?
Food.
Your food?
Food.
Oh, are you okay?
No.
Oh, pobrecito. So, they did all of that. They finished doing what they had to do to me. I was holding her. She was fine. And then they came and they took her, and then they started to do, they checked her. They got her footprints and everything. Now, while that was going on, they came.
Hey, Sarah.
Jenny came and checked me, make sure that, the bleeding was normal, and that I wasn't, that I wasn't clotting too much. I don't know. But when she checked me, Jonathan was holding onto my hand. They had taken the baby already, and they were checking her. My mom was over there with the baby. And I felt like a lot of blood come out. And Jonathan was looking, and his face was like, what the? And then Jenny was like, And I was like, what you mean, She's like, okay. She's like, so, careful, because you're dirty. You're going to get your pizza on her. I told you go get a wipey so you can clean your face. Correle. Yeah, because you have pizza and cupcake all over your face. Go get a wipey. Correle. Now. Ira. Ira. She's like, okay. She's like, well, I'm going to go ahead and call the doctor that helped deliver the baby. She's like, I'm going to go ahead and call the doctor. She's like, because you seem to be, the bleeding was abnormal. And I guess there was like huge clots that came out. And they were like a little worried because, that wasn't okay. So she called the doctor. She showed the doctor. I guess they weighed how much blood came out, and it was not good. So the doctor, she goes in there and she does like a manual sweep, and she checks, and she's like, okay. She's like, so that's not normal. She's like, but sometimes when delivery is so fast and the baby comes out so quickly, your uterus kind of like freaks out, I guess, and it doesn't contract and help you clot the way it should. So they started me on some medication to help my uterus contract, and that was painful. That medication was Pitocin, so I ended up having Pitocin anyways, and it was just making me have some cramping, and then with breastfeeding, so it was cramping on cramping, and it was so painful, and they had me on that medication for the whole time that we were there, until the day that they discharged us. So for 2 days, they had me on that medication, and also on some Tylenol and ibuprofen to kind of help the cramping, but it kind of was like not working because they were giving me medicine to cramp. But other than that was pretty much it. Other than that, we didn't have any other complications, thank God. Baby girl came out healthy. She came out okay. She came out quickly. And, after they gave me that medication, everything kind of seemed to be okay with me. We were able to come home. At one point, it was a little scary, though, because after they brought me down to the postpartum room, because they did hold me in the delivery room, for a little bit longer. Tell you. Just to keep an eye on the bleeding and make sure that it didn't get like any worse. Now, before they checked me, I started getting like a little lightheaded, and then my heart started racing, and then I got like a pounding headache. And then they were like, if you start feeling like that, like let us know, because that's not okay. But after they checked me and they started me on the medication, as I was feeling fine, I was able to get up. They made sure that I was able to get up and walk without feeling like faint or anything before they took us down to the postpartum room. I know, Mama, I know. Um, but after that, everything was fine. They only kept us in the delivery room for about 2 hours, and then they brought us down to the postpartum room, and then they kept me on that medication. Now, when I was in the postpartum room, I got up to go to the bathroom, and I was like leaking TMI, but I was leaking blood like down my legs. And I told Jonathan, um, I was like, can you come help me? And he was like, yeah, why? And I was like, I'm like leaking down my legs. I was like, that's not normal. That's not okay. So he like grabs the nurse button and he calls the nurse. And they came and they checked me, but everything was fine. Um, we were able to come home. I'm okay, but the girl's okay. And that's pretty much my labor and delivery story. She was the quickest to come out, the fastest labor that I had out of all three of them. But definitely she was the toughest to recover because my body was just feeling so weak afterwards, and I don't remember feeling that weak after the boys. Um, which I told Jonathan was I found kind of funny that she was like the quickest, I felt like the easiest, the fastest, but afterwards it was like the hardest from her. You know, mamas. And then when when they gave me the medication, they gave me a shot first, and then yeah, mamas. They gave me a shot, and then they gave me some in the IV, and then they were giving me some orally. When they gave me the shot, it was so funny because Jonathan was standing right there next to me, and I didn't look at the needle or anything. Jenny did not let me look at the needle, like she did it on purpose to like kind of like make sure that I didn't see it. And she's like, okay, you're just gonna feel pinched, and she just puts it in. And I was like, okay. And Jonathan's like, God damn! And she's like, you're not supposed to say that. And I was like, what? And he's like, that needle was huge. And she's like, you're not supposed to say that. She's like, you're not supposed to scare her. And I was like, was it? And he's like, yeah, you didn't feel it. He's like, that thing was huge. And I was like, no. It was so funny. But yeah, that's pretty much my labor and delivery story. It was eventful. It was, like I said, it was quick and easy, but there was some like little bumps, but I thank God that everything was fine. Yeah, mamas. After she was born, we did have, after we were discharged, so they came in, they checked me, they checked her, and they were like, okay, you're good. They told me I was good to be, discharged, but they kind of were waiting on her. Tell you, because her jaundice levels were a little high. So the night before we were going to be discharged, they were a little high, so they said they were going to check her in the morning again and see how she was doing. And then I was waiting for the pediatricians to come and let me know if she was going to be discharged with me or if she was going to have to stay another 24 hours. So they checked her again and they said that it was just at the level where she could go home, but we had to come back the next day. Oh, sorry, mamas. We had to come back the next day after we were discharged in the morning for them to check her again and make sure her jaundice was looking okay. If it wasn't, then she was going to have to stay for 24 hours in the hospital under the blue lights. So we went back the next day after we were discharged, and one of the lactation nurses looked at her, and thank God she looked fine. They said she looked fine. The jaundice was at an okay level, was at a low level. So she was okay. She looked okay. She was feeding fine, and her weight was fine. She was... When she was discharged, she was at 7 pounds even. And then when we went again, she was back at 7.3. So she was back at gaining her weight the next day. So the lactation nurse was like, she looks perfect. She's doing good. She's doing fine. She's like, just go ahead and make an appointment for that Monday. So we went back. We were discharged on Saturday the 23rd, and then yeah, I think it was Saturday. It was either Friday or Saturday. No, it was Saturday. Saturday the 23rd. And then they said just to go ahead and make an appointment for her either Monday, that following Monday, or Tuesday. So you guys saw we ended up going into for her appointment on Tuesday. And again, at her appointment, like I said, they told us she looked good. She looked fine. Baby girl is gaining her weight just fine, and her jaundice is looking okay. So that's pretty much an update and our labor and delivery story. Like I said, thank God everything went fine. Everything was perfect, and we now have our baby girl. Baby girl here with us. Hello, mamas. Hello, kitty. Hello, kitty. I can do the mamas. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the video out here because it feels like it's pretty long. And baby girl's getting hungry. Gonna get hungry here any minute. Look at her. She's starting to get hungry. But yeah, go ahead and stay tuned for following videos on how I'm coping with now having 3 little ones instead of just the 2, with the newborn, and how we're doing, how the boys are doing with her and all of that. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.